Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we return to talking about the yearly tradition of not just celebrating the Christmas holiday, but also the ongoing attacks and perversions of the event, usually being pushed by liberals, leftists, and social justice warriors. This phenomenon, sometimes dramatically called the War on Christmas, well, it's an anti-Christian, anti-American campaign that's certainly more than just a myth, even though the left would have you believe it's one, pretending it's not real. For example, here's an article from Salon that attempts to slander Fox News and other right-leaning outlets for covering their attacks on Christmas. Perhaps it's the wording of it being so harsh and so effective that really triggers people like this. But whatever it may be, liberals get really unhinged when you bring the war on Christmas up. That's why, of course, I just can't resist talking about it here. So let's go ahead and get started. Here's our 2019 current year version of this story called The War on Christmas Returns. First of all, this Salon article existing at all just proves how scared and worried SJWs are about being called out for this. They cower in fear when we point out how badly they are against Christmas, and sometimes the American traditions and also Christian influences behind it. It really makes sense leftists would come after Christmas too if you think about it. It's got all of the usual ingredients they look for when searching for targets and things to complain about online. First of all, Christmas is extremely popular. Everyone loves Christmas time, taking a break from work, hanging out with your friends and family, trading presents and whatnot. It's the best. You've got cool Christmas movies to watch too, and there's lots of good food and drinks. It's a good time of year that's really popular and everyone likes it, so naturally, haters like the left-wingers are going to be drawn to that, putting their negative spin on things wherever they can, grasping for relevance. For our first example, let's start with something simple. Over the years, we've talked about how SJWs want to ban common Christmas phrases, and specifically Christmas music came under fire last year too. And now this time, there was a funny news story going around this week about a comedian who got in trouble for saying Merry Christmas. How dare you? This article talks about how Whitney Cummings got reported to her human resources department at her work, all for just casually telling a staff member Merry Christmas one day while leaving work. Pretty ridiculous, huh? Talk about getting triggered. And just imagine if this happened in another scenario in another direction. Like if, say, you were in India and someone mentioned a local holiday greeting there, which then made you triggered and go tell on your coworker. Not a chance that would happen, but for some reason, in America, shitting on our local people and our traditions is fair game. It's encouraged even in. Now, I'm just not having it anymore. Let's go ahead and read on into this story anyway though and see what else happens. Last year I was working on a TV show, got in trouble with human resources for saying Merry Christmas to an intern. Cummings said on TBS's Conan. Is that true? O'Brien asked in disbelief. That's true. I was leaving. I was like, bye guys, Merry Christmas. Like just a formality, what you would say. Cummings explained. I come back like June 6th, HR calls me and they're like, hey, we need to talk to you. One of the interns is pissed that you said Merry Christmas. Yikes. Sounds like a pretty straightforward story here too. And talk about an entitled intern. Interns are supposed to be learning on the job, right? And they're supposed to be happy to be there in these sorts of yes men who kind of help everyone out. They should be going with the flow and going along with things so they can learn on the job, not complain about one of the higher ups on their production saying a holiday greeting they don't like. And this complaint means a lot coming from a comedian like Whitney Cummings too. Her public complaining and joking about this shows she's not totally extremely to the left wing like how she usually leads on. Not to say censorship and political correctness is solely a liberal thing, but it mostly is, especially in these situations and in this time in our country's history. I mean, do we really think that intern was a God-fearing, America-loving patriot or conservative? Not a chance. In fact, Whitney goes on to say that intern claimed to be agnostic, whatever that means. Next, I want to move away from things we can't do or say at Christmas anymore and talk about some ways in which the leftists are trying to change the holiday, and some might even say they're perverting it. For example, here's a news story from Baltimore, Maryland about a popular character there. They call him Black Santa. Take a look.
Santa Luke Durant has been a fixture at Mondawmin Mall for 35 years, one of the few African-American Santas to be found at area malls. It's a job he loves.
For like the last 20 years, if I'm not mistaken, I have a picture with him.
Okay, so far so good. No problem with people having their own version of Santa, really, but when they promote it too much and start to act like this is some kind of big and amazing thing, it does get a bit cringy. Also, this is about to get a lot more over the top and serious when they introduce a smartphone application that's related to it too. Just you guys wait.
If you're looking for an African-American Santa like Santa Luke, there's an app for that.
It's called Find Black Santa. Dallas psychiatrist Jahan Woods created the app with her twin boys in mind.
After several years of trying to find a Santa that was relatable.
Okay, let's pause again right there. First of all, nice glasses, lady. You got the whole "I'm going to be problematic" look down pat. As for finding Black Santa to be relatable, I guess that's cool, maybe. Frankly, I think people can relate to Santa no matter what color he is, just fine. But if we are being accurate, and let's also be real here, Santa is obviously a white guy. It's a character based on Christian and European traditions that's also based on a real saint, Saint Nicholas. And while he might have been more Greek or Mediterranean looking, but still, he's a European white dude nonetheless. Definitely not black like the ones the new Find My Black Santa app is looking for. Really, I just find this whole wave of liberal black people trying to make everything black like them to be quite exhausting and hypocritical. And their need to take over and blackwash white characters like Santa is nauseating. And that's really what's going on here. Santa is getting race swapped and or blackwashed. And now there's an app to help encourage this trend. And this news station is propagating this bullshit too. And also, it's worth noting, I find it pretty funny that this news station just had to give this story to one of their black reporters too. They must have been like, hey, this is a black story. We need a black reporter. Get on out there. Pretty pathetic.
The app lists Santas in 35 states and Washington, D.C., from Oregon to the one in the Mall of America, and as far south as Florida. She's even located them in London, Canada, and Amsterdam.
Sounds like a colossal waste of time to me. And to put it plainly, this is a terrible idea for an app. At least if you actually want to make an app that becomes popular and makes money. But that's the thing we're learning more and more lately. Most of these liberal pushes and their ideas and pitches for things like movies, TV shows, and smart apps, they're not designed to make money at all. And they're not being done based on good business practices or giving the public what they want. This is really all about pushing liberal propaganda. And since this case is about promoting the race swapping of Santa Claus, the figurehead of one of our greatest American holidays, well, obviously that's why I take umbrage with it. Forgive me if my enthusiasm seems a little overblown here in my defense of Christmas, but gosh darn it, this holiday is an American institution, and I'll be damned if I'll let the left try and ruin it again and win their so-called war against my favorite holiday.
And Black Santas have asked her to list them for events.
I think it's a great idea whether they are black, white, red, or yellow, but the fact of the matter is that we can look for Black Santa is the catch right there, so yeah.
Yeah, genius idea, but you're not gonna like it when Black Santa shows up on Christmas night and instead of leaving you presents, he nicks your TV and hijacks your car. Just kidding, but really, what do you leave out for Black Santa anyway? I know the real Santa likes milk and cookies left out for him, but what do we do here? Do we leave Black Santa out some collard greens and menthol cigarettes? I don't know, but for the record, I'm of course kidding here.
Specifically for Black children, it's really important in racial and ethnic, identity development that children see figures, whether it's in the media, mythical figures like Santa Claus, because it's really helpful for their identity development.
No, I don't know, lady. That sounds like some fake pseudoscience bullshit to me. I'd like to see your study. In the real world, though, people can grow up and develop identities just fine without a Black Santa. And I highly doubt taking black kids to a Black Santa would help in their development in any way whatsoever. Really, it just sounds like this lady, you want to see more black people everywhere because you're obviously insecure about being a minority in this country. Then this lady projects this feeling onto her kids and others, assuming they would like to see more blacks everywhere too, when really, who knows? Not everyone has this obsessive need to see people like them everywhere you look. And also, this preference of yours, while you try and make it sound obvious and natural and good for your people, well, it just comes off as highly racist to me. They're basically saying they prefer to see blacks, which in turn means they don't like seeing whites or browns or Asians or anything else. I mean, is there more to this? Is there something I'm missing here? Because that seems to be an obvious point this news report is looking over. And despite wanting to see only your race in other places, being pretty racist in any other situation, like if say a white person said they only wanted to see white people and their kids should only see whites too, well, that would obviously be called racism. But for some reason, the people in this video get away with their own biases, and even they get them promoted by the mainstream media. Next, let's move on to talking about Christmas displays going wrong this year. For those who don't know, a big part of the Christmas tradition here in the United States is people decorating their houses and front lawns, usually putting up at least Christmas lights and sometimes other decorations like signs, wreaths, fake reindeer, and other fun stuff like that. But as with other holiday traditions getting totally ruined this year, like saying Merry Christmas and Black Santa from before, well, this Christmas display tradition is coming under fire now too. Our first example is pretty out there as well. Apparently some degenerate liberals over in Kansas thought it would be funny to make a display of Santa having sex or something, and they put this disgusting thing on their roof for all of their town to see, which of course includes lots of children. Fortunately, the story here says they quickly quickly took down their inappropriate display voluntarily. But still, the fact that this happened and it made the news says more than enough already. The silver lining here, though, is at least this display and this trend was properly shamed and shunned, and the people realized it was inappropriate very quickly. This shows that not everyone hates Christmas and our traditions and decency. In fact, most people want to protect and conserve it, much like us. But just wait, we're only getting started on this display stuff. The next one is the really bad one. Believe it or not, some lewd imagery is actually not so bad when you consider what the next people are trying to do, and the trend they're starting too. Basically, there's been a growing amount of Christmas displays that are trying to get political, and since we're talking about coverage from the mainstream media here, they of course are promoting these sorts of anti-Trump, pro-liberal Christmas display stunts. This article from USA has more details. It's called Jesus, Mary, and Joseph in a Cage. Political nativity scenes are causing a stir across the US. This should be good. Let's go ahead and check it out. The Reverend Steve Jasoma had no intention of his church becoming known for politics. The 64-year-old pastor at St. Susanna, a Catholic parish in Dedham, Massachusetts, located just outside Boston, wasn't trying to make waves or cause controversy last Christmas when he decided to put a cage around the baby Jesus in the St. Susanna's nativity scene and wall off the three wise men. He was merely trying to start a conversation. He's far from the only one. Churches across the country are using Christmas nativity scenes to make political statements and protest. From putting the Holy Family in cages in a nod to the southern border crisis to depicting animals in the manger underwater and a creeping tide about to overtake Jesus, Mary, and Joseph in a nod to climate change. The displays have drawn both support and outrage from churchgoers and passersby. Pastors agree that churches shouldn't be partisan, but the gospel is inherently political, they say, and it's their job to facilitate conversations about morals and values, regardless of which party their congregates belong to. Wow, just wow. They keep saying they're just trying to start conversations, but I highly doubt they would like what they'd hear, especially coming from me. And I'm sure they wouldn't want pro-Trump kinds of Christmas displays to be put out there like this, but I guess their side is okay. And we could talk all day about how they're wrong about the specifics here and how their politics don't need to be a part of Christmas or the holidays at all. For example, the border crisis is certainly an issue, but letting everyone in willy-nilly isn't the answer. We need tighter security and a more rigorous screening process, if anything. At least if we want to fix our country and make us better and safer, but I suspect those aren't the goals of pro-illegal immigrant leftists like this. They really want more black or brown illegals to come in so they can get more votes and gain more power. And obviously helping America and our people is far from their minds. As for the climate change hysteria nonsense, well, that's another sneaky and political thing the left tries to pull. They claim to be trying to save the world, but really, their only solutions involve more government authority and pushes for socialist and anti-American lifestyles. I mean, do they really want us to think it's just a coincidence that climate change is all important to them now, when they found all these ways to use that issue to further their own liberal agendas? Quite the coincidence they want us to stomach there, and I'm not buying it. In the end, we can clearly see the war on Christmas trend isn't letting up anytime soon. Sure, if you take the term too literally, you can make it sound like a far-out right-wing conspiracy theory, but if you look at things in a real and honest way, it's oh so obvious it's still there. Saying Merry Christmas is offensive now, and so are our holiday jingles. And at the same time, other cultures and races and traditions get protection and promotion. Well, not anymore. Not on my watch, guys. No siree. What do you guys think? Is the war on Christmas getting worse? Have you seen any other SJW attacks on the holiday? Comment your thoughts on everything below, and thanks for watching No Bullshit. Hit that like button if you love Christmas in America, and until next time, Merry Christmas, everybody.